general. Hopefully we'll be able to do this in person at some point. But otherwise, this is a great way to get to see everybody and interact with our great speakers. Usually we just make announcements with what's going on, but we'll keep it short because I don't want to talk too much. And I'm sure everybody's been very busy doing their art and trying to do shows and whatever else creatively in order to stay sane and engaged with your own art audience and trying to sell lots of art, as I am trying to do that myself and finish up a couple of commissions before the holidays are over. So that's always exciting to do and stressful too, but it's cool. So I'm done. Jen, you're doing a great job. So let's get going.
Thanks. Well, without much ado, let me introduce Lauren Heller. I met Lauren a couple of years ago, I think at SRA Designs on Wisconsin Avenue during an open house, which is my plug for any time that you feel safe during the COVID era. You know, go out and meet people and go to art openings because you never know who you're going to bump into and meet. Lauren moved to DC and started her own art consulting business. And she will take it from there and sort of tell you more about how she came to be and what she does. And I know you have lots of questions. I already see them coming in, and we will address them as they come up. I think Lauren's going to give a little bit of her background first before we get to, you know, nitty gritty marketing questions that I know you all have. But so I want to know, I see them, we won't forget them, and there'll be time for questions at the end. Lauren has a brief slideshow to begin with. Okay, take it away, Lauren.
Hi, everyone. Well, thank you so much for inviting me to be your guest speaker for the October Kickoff Meeting. I'm so excited to be here. I have a little slide presentation. I'll share my screen in just a minute. But yeah, I just wanted to say I'll have some remarks at the front, and then I'll save lots of times for questions at the end. But I know Jennifer's also going to be moderating any questions that you have in the chat, so she can ping me if it's one specific to a slide. So yeah, I think this will be way more fun when I get around to also getting to answer all the good questions. Let me share my screen. Hopefully this all works. Let's see here. Okay. Bring up presentation mode. There we go. Can everybody see my screen? Looking good?
Yep, you look great.
Okay, perfect. And I'm also gonna just move you guys just off to the side. There we go. Yeah, so my name is Lauren Heller. Again, thank you so much for inviting me to be your guest speaker this evening. I'm really excited to be here. I started my business, Lauren Heller Art Consultant, in 2017, and it's based right here in Bethesda, Maryland, where I'm currently living. So the big question, why did I become an art advisor? And perhaps better yet, how did I become an art advisor? I hear these questions a lot, and I will be the first one to admit that art advisory, it's a very niche career path. The journey to becoming an art advisor and founding my own business definitely did not happen overnight. What I can say is that I have always been passionate about art and design. I was definitely that child that was moving the furniture around in my bedroom constantly. I was always changing up what was hanging on my walls. I just loved how switching up the interior design of a space could completely change the feel of a room. And I recognized that early on. And then, of course, like so many of you, I think this evening, I loved my art classes from the very beginning. I mean, I just knew there was a connection there. So where it all began, one particular art class that I took in college changed really the trajectory of my life. I went to Georgetown University right here in DC. And I took this, I can't remember if it was freshman or sophomore year of college, but it was a class that intrigued me, and it combined elements of fine art with sort of an intro to art history. And in this class, we were presented with great art from throughout different eras, and we were challenged to try to recreate them using only the materials that were available to these artists at that time. And I just was like, wow, this is amazing. It took two interests that I already had, history and also fine art, and combined them into this amazing subject of art history. And I was completely hooked. I knew I needed to take more art history classes, and that's exactly what I did. I went on to graduate Magna Cum Laude with a major in art history and minors in studio fine art and French. Had to include this great photo I found while I was researching. I was pulling out photographs for the presentation. Here I am on graduation day with my mom, she's checking out my diploma. I am looking very confident, which completely makes me laugh now, because I will tell you, all of my friends at Georgetown were studying to be doctors. They were in the business school. They were doing the School of Foreign Service. All of these areas that had very clear professional outcomes and very clear paths on how to achieve those professional outcomes. And here I was graduating with my art history major, but still feeling very confident and excited. But I knew I needed to figure out what I was going to do with that major. So I got online and I started to do a lot of research, and I found the Sotheby's Institute of Art and their master's programs. And they have institutes in more than one area. I was definitely interested in going to New York City, and I was interested in their contemporary art program. And I applied and I got in, and that was definitely life-changing. It was a great program. Not only did we get to study the art that I loved in depth, but we also learned about the numerous careers that exist in today's modern art world. And that is exactly what I needed. I knew I wasn't going to be a fine artist. I needed to know what were the other careers out there that make the modern art world tick and move. And they introduced us to so many options. We also took some absolutely amazing art field trips. And this is probably what has stuck with me the most from my time at the Sotheby's Institute. My favorite trip being out to visit Marfa, Texas. I don't know if any of you this evening have been to Marfa. If you haven't, I recommend putting it on your bucket list. I want to go back. I want to take my husband and my young son back. If you're not familiar with Marfa, it is in the middle of nowhere, Texas. It is very rural, but it also happens to be home to the Chinati Foundation. I hope I'm saying that right. But that is where you'll find large-scale installations by Donald Judd, John Chamberlain, and then also Dan Flavin, whose work one of the pieces I'm standing in front of in this picture. All artists that I absolutely love, and yeah, can't recommend Marfa, Texas enough. So I want to take you all back to 2008 and 2008 in New York City. If we can think that far back, 2008, this was before the Great Recession, and the economy was still booming, and specifically the art market was booming. And really specifically, the contemporary art market was booming. This was such a fascinating time to be studying at the Sotheby's Institute, because we got to have a lot of behind the scenes looks and knowledge to the Sotheby's auction house. And especially for someone studying contemporary art, this was an amazing time, because for the first time in history, contemporary art auctions were, well, they were not only breaking records, but they started to break records for individual sales of living artists that were beating sales for established traditional masters. And I'm thinking specifically of like great impressionist paintings. And one of the artists that was making headlines was Jeff Koons. And here I am getting my picture taken with him in 2008. He gave a talk at the Met that was in conjunction with him having 3 large-scale art installations shown on the roof garden at the Met that summer. And I was having a little bit of a starstruck art moment. I had studied Jeff Koons's work in depth for my thesis, and getting to meet him in person was a high point during this time. So the next steps, I ended up graduating valedictorian from my class at the Institute, and I was preparing my resume, and I was thinking, okay, I'm going to apply to museums in New York and blue chip galleries and some private collections. But in a twist of fate, I ended up marrying the love of my life, my husband. And he at the time was in the United States Navy. He's a pilot. And I will tell you, when you are in the Navy, you do not get to choose where you live. So the government decided we would actually be settling in Northeast Florida. So we moved on down to Jacksonville and got settled there. But in another twist of fate, I ended up connecting with a gallery owner in Ponte Vedra Beach, Florida, not far from where we lived. And she was looking for part-time help at that time. And I was just so excited. I was so excited to connect with her, and took the job. And what made it especially exciting was not only was it going to be working at a gallery, but it was a female-owned gallery. And so I learned so much during this time. So some of what I learned. Probably the most important thing that I took away during my time at the gallery was client services. Specifically going into people's homes to make recommendations and feeling really confident when discussing art with others. Also, installation. How to hang artwork of all sizes, learning what hardware to use on the back of a framed painting, how to wire a painting, how to properly lift a painting, and especially if it's really big, and not hurt yourself or damage the painting. Also understanding scale and proportion in a room so that you know how high up off of a sofa or off of a buffet an artwork needs to go to look right, or even where to hang it on just a big blank wall. All of these things I just learned on the job. Also framing. So in addition to being a fine art gallery, we were also a full service frame shop. So I had to learn about current framing design trends. And while I was not the framer, I had enough interactions with our wonderful framer that I also learned so much about what goes into the actual framing process. Everything from all of the materials to the labor that gets you to that gorgeous finished product that you turn over to the client at the end. And then this last one I call the art eye. It's just kind of my term. And when I say the art eye, I'm really referring to an intuition that is developed by looking at and assessing art often. It is definitely grounded in having a strong foundation in art history and being able to recognize references that contemporary artists are pulling from. It's also nurtured by speaking with artists throughout their careers and seeing how their work changes and matures over time. And I realize the art eye has a lot of subjectiveness to it, but it is also a skill that's honed just like everything else. Okay, starting a business. So how did I get here? After 10 years on active duty military service, my husband decided that he was ready for a change and we were going to re-enter our civilian lives. We knew that we wanted to move back up here to the DC area where I was born and raised, and my family's still here. And we would definitely be closer to my husband's family as well. So it really felt like the right time. When I envisioned starting my own art consulting business, I did not want it to feel stuffy or unapproachable. I sort of had these visions of a few galleries that I had been in while living in New York City, you know, the ones that feel kind of scary and very much like, why are you here? I did not want that feeling at all. The gallery that I worked at in Florida was so welcoming, and I wanted to bring that same vibe to my own business. And I wanted my business to provide the services that I heard my own friends and family asking me about. So these are art advisory services such as design and placement. So installing artwork and wall decor quickly and efficiently after moving into a new home. Custom framing cherished family photographs so that they can finally be displayed and enjoyed. And of course, art acquisition, selecting the right piece of art for the wall that has maybe sat empty for just far too long. And this is what I call sort of art acquisition the easy way. So my process begins with selection. After an initial client consultation, I research art options from my home office. I source from artists and galleries across the United States, and I pull together a curated selection that I put into an email that I call my digital art proposal, and I send that back to my client to review. Once we've made a selection, there's delivery. I deliver the artwork and or client framing myself. If it's sourced locally, I'll have the artist drop it off to me or I'll go pick it up. And if it's coming from outside the DC area, I will definitely have it shipped to my home office. And that's just it. I found that that's wonderful because one, my client doesn't have to be home for an important delivery. And they are also not dealing with any of the packaging materials. I open a lot of boxes and get rid of a lot of cardboard and bubble wrap for my clients. And that way they are just seeing me with that finished piece that is ready to go on their walls. And that brings us to, of course, installation. In many cases, I am also doing the installations. Sometimes I do work with a secondary installer for larger pieces or for installs in certain hard to reach locations. But I do a lot of installs myself. And it's so much fun. I love being the contact point from the very start through the very end of the process.
So we actually have one question on framing.
Yeah.
In terms of, is framing usually subjective?
Mm-hmm.
Or are you talking to, I'm assuming this is what they're asking, or are you, finding out what kind of thing goes best in the room, and is usually framing the way to go? How often do you frame versus leave it with bare sides or painted sides for that matter?
Ooh, this is a great question, and lots of different aspects to it. So much is not subjective, that's not the right word. So much depends on so many different things, right? So I would say probably framing is maybe half and half. So there are different things to take into consideration. What framing does is it provides a slightly more finished look to a piece, right? It's a clean, polished, finished look. And so certainly in rooms that are, maybe feel slightly fancier, slightly more elegant, I love to give it framing because it just I don't know, it's that finishing touch that just elevates it. It's like the icing on the cake. But not every piece, and I'm about to share a couple of installations that I've done recently, and you'll see not every piece needs framing. So one piece that I will share in a few slides, the artist always uses thick stretcher bars, and we almost never frame those. She just paints the sides, and just that extra depth on the wall is all it needs to stand out. And it really depends on the mood of the room, what the client is looking for, and I would just say what else is going on. I don't know if that makes sense. There is a lot of subjectivity to it, and the client and I have a good discussion and come up with a game plan.
Great, thank you.
Well, and I'm so glad we brought up framing. In the next couple of slides, like I said, I was going to share some recent installations, and this piece we did end up framing, which I'll tell you about. So this particular piece is called Upriver by a local artist, Martha Spack. And I don't know if her name sounds familiar to anyone, but she has a beautiful gallery at the Wharf downtown. And I love working with her. She's wonderful, and her painting is beautiful. And this client was in Potomac, and she was really worried about going too big in her family room. And I reassured her. She already had the family size, comfortable sectional. She had great ceiling height. And I let her know, I was like, 36 by 48. I know it looks big sometimes in the gallery, but it's going to be perfect in your space. And it was absolutely the right call. We finished this piece off with gorgeous custom floater frame. And you can't see from this picture, it's got whitewashed sides and a slightly soft silver finish on the front. And it pulled it all together. Like I said, it's just that finishing touch that elevates the piece. She was thrilled, and I love it. This piece to me looks like a window out into, a gorgeous vista. This piece is actually fine art photography, Christopher Street, NYC by Zan Pedron. This client, this is his condo in Georgetown, and this was his entryway, his front entryway. So where there's a lot of coming and going. And I loved when I found this photography piece, that it also featured people coming and going. And I thought, wow, this is really the perfect piece for the perfect space. And also I sourced this piece locally from the Merritt Gallery in Chevy Chase. And he was thrilled with the install there. It looked wonderful.
Lauren, when you usually do these choices for your clients, do you do virtual models to show them that the painting in their space? How does that work?
That is a great question too, because I know just from emails I've gotten, I think one of the sites is called Modsy, maybe. They're, virtual modeling is pretty big right now. I have not done any virtual modeling. So like I said, I only briefly touched on it, but I'll do what I call my digital art proposal after this initial consultation. I usually give clients, depending on the client, about 5 to 8 choices that I think are going to be stand out, stunning, no matter what. And then what happens is if the piece is local, there are a lot of times when I work with artists and they let me bring it out on approval, or if it's through a local gallery, so that they can just see it in their space, which, is even better than a modeling online. But otherwise, clients are trusting me and through my experience, and that it's going to look great in their space. And I also tell clients, I always want them first and foremost just to love the painting, right? Whenever you walk by a painting, no matter what, it should give you that feel that you love it. You shouldn't ever just base buying art off of someone else's opinion. So those two things really go hand in hand for me. And this particular piece, Blue and White Table with Lemons by an artist, Laura LaCombra Schubert, I placed in a home in Bethesda. And this client was looking to brighten up the eat-in area of their open plan kitchen. They had something else there before. It was kind of dark. And when I was doing the research, I found this piece by Laura, and I knew it was going to be perfect. I think so much. I don't know if you can hear me say this, but again, just from looking at art so often, I tend to find the pieces I know that are going to be just perfect in the spaces. And that's one of the things I love most about my job. But as soon as we hung it up on the wall, I was there with the clients, we hang it up. The room instantly felt brighter and cheerier. And we all just sort of had this moment together, and it was great. It was lovely.
Do you work with interior designers, or do you just find the artists independently?
So I really find artists, I mean, I have worked with interior designers before, but for the most part, I'm just working with artists and galleries independently. So I'll either do research on my own and approach an artist, or an artist will reach out to me just to be on my radar. And I'll do research when a project comes up. And of course, I have a bunch of galleries that I love up and down the East Coast that I'm like constantly looking to see what's new and fresh. So that's basically how I work. This installation, I love because it's two installations together. On the left, we have a fine art glass installation by the artist Kimberly Young. And on the right is Sunny Fall Day by local artist Megan Elizabeth. And this is one of the great things about working with an art advisor, is that I'm not just standing in one room in front of one wall thinking what is going to go right here. I'm taking a step back. I'm thinking about what other sight lines are going on. Where can this painting or glass be seen from other areas of the home? Where is it going to be interacting with other pieces of art that we're going to be hanging or the client might already own? So I like to take the big picture into view. This project was really fun because on the left, I don't know if you can tell, that's actually a curved niche, and we weren't going to be able to hang a painting there. And I found this glass and I knew it was going to be perfect. And I love that it introduced a 3D element into that space, which was just visually very interesting. And then it also just brought a little extra pop of color that just moves you throughout the space, which is otherwise filled with beautiful neutral sort of golds and tans. Okay, and then this last one this was so much fun. I can't wait to tell you guys about this. This was a custom gallery wall, and these were my client's photographs. And the client reached out to me, and she and her husband, before COVID, had taken a really special trip to Paris. And her husband had taken these outstanding black and white photographs, and they hadn't done anything with them yet. And she wanted to surprise him for his birthday. So she reached out to me. We picked out, I picked out with her 5 out of the whole group that I thought, gosh, these ones would be really great to highlight and they look awesome together. We came up with the design and the layout. I had them printed and I had them framed, and we did this wow moment in their dining room. But the best part was, at the time, her husband was working from home. And so he was upstairs while I was installing. And again, so this was a surprise. He didn't know what was going on. He knew something was going on. But while I was there, he came downstairs to see. And so I got to be there for the reveal, and he was so happy. It was just such a beautiful moment. It was really fun to be a part of. Okay, so that was kind of all about me, and I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about the business of being an artist, which this will be really fun. So first and foremost, as an artist, what are the advantages to working with an art advisor? Well, I think, of course, the biggest one is that I connect you with a client who is ready to make a purchase. That's the best part. I also deliver the artwork to the client site. I handle installation, and I handle all client interface. So when you work with me, I'm the one actually purchasing the artwork from you. So all you have to do is the part that you love, is making the gorgeous piece of art, and I take care of the rest.
Actually, I have a question here.
Yeah.
Do you represent the artists for a fee, or are you looking to find artists and place their art?
So I don't represent any individual artist. That's how I differ from a gallery. And then once we decide that we're going to work together, I'll talk to that artist at that time to talk about moving forward for placing their art.
Got it.
And oh, I added this slide in here because I get this question a lot. How to stand out when reaching out to an art advisor. And this is only from my personal experience as an art advisor. I thought it'd be so much fun just to share some tips based on my own experience reading through emails, and we'll see, don't take anything, nothing's hard and fast. This is just fun stuff. So my first don't was just going to be, don't email if you can, just a cut and paste form letter. And I only say this because I receive, as I'm sure you guys do, right? We just are inundated with so many emails every single day. And these types of emails are easy to put off opening until later and are easier to put off replying to. And so I thought it would be fun to brainstorm some great tips to get any email that you send or message that you send to stand out in the inbox or in the direct message. And so my first tip is to try to make it personal if you can. It would be great, and it's always fun if you can find a way to connect with the person that goes even beyond just your art. And some of this you're going to see in my tips. Some is better for email. Some is better for just a really casual message on, say, a social media platform like Facebook or Instagram. So this goes into my second do. Stay up to date. Follow the person on Instagram, subscribe to their newsletter if they have one. And by doing that, it's going to give you tons of talking points, connections, so that you can make it personal when you do reach out. So for example, if you're just on Instagram and just looking to do just a quick hello, you could say, gosh, I saw that you mentioned that you love hiking and had just gone to this place to go hiking. I love hiking too. I'm going out to this place to go hiking next week. I'll let you know how it is. Like, those things will catch my attention and will get your name in front of me. And also I wanted to share, I had a funny one today. An artist reached out in my messages on Instagram, and she just made me laugh. It was just a funny intro, and just the fact that I was laughing, I opened it up right away and I let her know. I was like, that was funny. And I wrote her back. So it's just little ways, if you can, to make it personal. Also, how to stand out when reaching out to an art gallery. So I'm going to start off with the same don't, if you can help it. But again, don't email the cut and paste letter. And, the one that just says, hey, go check out my website if you have a moment, right? So I want to make it more personal. If you can, if you're local, do show your support, right? Attend an art opening. Galleries will always love and appreciate having the extra bodies in the room at an art opening. And that's another chance, just like we were saying at the start, just you never know who you're going to meet. Make sure you say hi to the gallery owner or the gallery director. Just a quick hello, just getting your face in front of someone, even if it's only for 2 seconds, you just never know. And it will always be helpful later on. If it's online, do comment on their Instagram posts. And I say this also because whether you're an artist or an art advisor or many art galleries, we're all small businesses, right? When we pour our heart and souls into our social media and people comment on it, we definitely take note because we're the ones behind all of that hard work. I know I do, and I can definitely say from being a gallery director, they notice that sort of thing as well. And even if it's not your face in person, you're still getting your name in front of someone who's going to take the time to engage back. And also, if you can, be specific. I love this one. So offer solutions or suggest opportunities for their clients. An example of that would be if you attended an art opening and you saw one piece that you loved and thought, wow, that's a great piece, let them know that. Say, I attended, great show. I saw this one piece. Hey, I've got a new series, and this new series has a similar vibe. I think it might also work well with your clients. This is where I get more specific. Attach 3 to 4 of your favorite images so that it's not just a link to a website, that the JPEGs are right there. High-res images. Include the medium, the size, and the price point, and tell them why you think it's a good fit. I saw that, oh my gosh, this piece, I think the artist you had showing was doing all these gorgeous blues. I'm also really experimenting with this blue tone right now. I think this might be a wonderful fit for your clients. And also suggest opportunities, right? This is what I love, because we talked about this a lot in the gallery world, is ask them, hey, I saw that one piece was pretty big. Do your clients prefer large pieces? Would they rather have, are you looking now, are you hearing more that small pieces are needed? I'm going to be adding to this series and I'd love any input. I'd be happy to do a series of small pieces. Let me know if there's a price point that you think isn't being hit right now, and maybe I can figure out how to make that price point work. These are all things that I think, in my experience, again, I think would be appreciated on the other end. So I say this all the time, and only because I learned it as a small business owner myself. You only have one chance to make a good digital first impression. And chances are that the first time a potential buyer will see you and your art, it will be online. So important. I'm going to talk about 2 different things. The first one's going to be Instagram. I think probably a lot of you are on Instagram, and if you're not, I would just recommend checking it out, maybe thinking about it, just because Instagram is a social media platform that's really just geared towards us creatives, right? It's photography and now even video based, and just really is a great way to show off beautiful design and artwork. So my first tip is, if you haven't yet, consider investing in professional photography. So on Instagram, and even onto the next slide when I talk about websites, I mean, professional photography is key. Good lighting is key, right? We want high-res images that shows us all the detail in your work that just regular phone photography may not pick up. We want to see that detail online. And also engage with your Instagram community. And I know this part takes time. I am in the thick of it with you as well. So just remember, and what I tell myself is, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And building your community should be the fun part. We get to cheer each other on, keep up to date with each other. And again, especially, gosh, during COVID, Instagram has been such a great way to keep up to date with everyone and seeing what new work you're putting out and pulling pieces. So also, I will add that Instagram expands your community, right? So it's not just going to be local. You're going to be meeting with people all over the country and potentially even the world.
Do you have a suggestion for a great photographer?
I do. Well, I'll tell you, I mean, I have a great suggestion for a photographer that does brand photos. So a lot of these photos you'll see, I had a brand session done, which I'm happy to recommend. Her name's Jamie Sutera. And I'll either add or I'll add into the chat her Instagram handle. I don't have one though, and maybe you guys will be the better resource for each other, one who does professional photography of the art itself. So I'll be interested to know from you guys to have in my own arsenal. I would love to know if you have a photographer you recommend there. But
we definitely have a couple we can
Oh,
do.
good. Because Jamie does fabulous brand photography, which I highly recommend. And that goes into this slide as well, which would be assess your website. One of my favorite things to tell artists is to think about your website like your own gallery, your own art gallery. Choose a clean design that's easy to navigate. it should be bright and ideally not too busy. So you really want your artwork to stand out and really take center stage, just like in a fine art gallery. And also keep it fresh, right? Available pieces should be easy to find and also updated frequently. And I'll just say, there's no sadder moment as an art advisor than when I do research, I find your website, I find a piece on your website that I'm like, this is perfect. I recommend it to my client. The client loves it. They are ready to go. And then I reach out only to find that, oh, it's not actually available. That's a sad moment. So yeah, just keeping it up to date is wonderful. And I think that's what I was thinking. So I hope we can keep in touch. I'm really excited to take more questions, and definitely feel free to check out my website. I'm always adding ideas about client projects. I'm featuring a lot of local artists. And of course, come find me on Instagram. I'm always over there chit-chatting. So I'd love to say hi.
This was awesome. I think in the chat, I found Jamie Sutero's Instagram handle. So
oh, great. She is
put
so nice. I can't recommend her enough. She just will, she completely puts you at ease when taking photographs. So I can't recommend her enough. She's great to work with.
That's awesome. So we have some more questions coming in. Do you suggest having the price listed on your website? This is a huge debate among the artist community.
Yes, and I have thought and talked about this also with a lot of artists, so I'm really glad you brought it up. I will say, as an art advisor, I appreciate having price points listed on a website, just because a lot of times what'll happen is I'll be researching and I'll pull pieces, but again, I cast a net. Like I said, usually it's 5 to 8 pieces. And so I don't always reach out to the artist right away. I might just give an initial recommendation to a client. It's helpful then if I can say what the price is of a piece, or at least have an idea. However, that being said, I also understand the flip side. Let's say you're an artist and you're working with multiple galleries, you're working with multiple art advisors. I can also understand not wanting to have prices listed on your website as well. What I do appreciate then, if you don't have them listed on a website, is have your price list sheet ready to email out to me and have it all just done by size, right? Because that's really what I want to know. It's really confusing to clients if, unless we're talking about 2 totally different mediums, if 2 works that are the same size are not the same price. So that's what I would recommend thinking about. If you could just have a price list ready to send out, that would be great.
Okay, excellent. And do you recommend writing sold on your website, or just having like a separate section of sold works?
I think either way is fine. I honestly think either way is fine, as long as it's clear. But I do say that the one benefit to having a separate sold section is that then I'm not having to go through so many sold pieces when I just want to know what is currently available. And it's great because, I don't want to say don't have your sold pieces up on your website, because if you do commissions, it's so helpful to look through sold pieces that could be the jumping off point for a potential commission.
Which brings us next to our next question.
Awesome.
Do you also commission work with a client and an artist?
Yes. And I love the commissioning process. A lot of the clients I meet, either the idea of a commission wouldn't have occurred to them. And I think a lot of people are a little intimidated by the commissioning process. And as we know, the commissioning process can vary a little bit from artist to artist, and clients really appreciate having an art advisor just walk them through. And I literally make it as painless as possible. I'm actually working on one right now, and I got such nice feedback also from the artist side. So she was just telling me how she had a not great commissioning process where she was working directly with a client, and she appreciated how easy I made it for her, because I've already done a lot of the talking through with the clients. So when I'm bringing the idea to the artist, it's clear and thought through and ready to go.
And do you have a contract template that you use between the artist and, I guess it's you, if you are purchasing the piece and then selling it to the artist,
Yeah.
selling it to the client?
So I've thought about that. I'll tell you, I'm not there yet where I have one specific contract. So far, I mean, I have good relationships with all of the artists that I work with. And because we have good relationships, that so far has been enough for moving forward. I think artists appreciate and know, because they're working with me, this is my business and I'm not going anywhere. And I have great relationships with my clients. So far that's been enough.
Okay. No, that's good to know that you haven't had any bad experiences that
Yeah,
you
knock
needed the
on wood.
contract. So that's always good.
Yeah.
I actually have one question of my own. I know I've seen on your website, as I do follow you on Instagram, you like to use a lot of work from Minted.
Yes.
How was that relationship brought about, and what is it at the Minted website that us as artists should be looking at that you find interesting? Like how, I'm not saying this as eloquently as I wanted to, but what about the Minted site draws you in?
That I love this. Okay, so when I was starting my business, I recognized from a lot of my friends that I was hearing from is a lot of people need very affordable art options. And that's part of my thing. Is I like to say there's an art solution for every budget, right? And potentially not every budget is going to be for an original work of art. What originally drew me to Minted was that we were still working with a community of independent artists who I could find on Instagram, right? They weren't robots. It wasn't just, some machine. And Minted does a great job with every piece. Obviously you search by artist or by piece. It tells you who it is, a little bit about the person. And so I know where I can find them. And what I was trying to say is when you buy a piece from Minted, that little bio and the little certificate of authenticity comes with the piece. So I like how throughout the process, Minted keeps it very connected to the artist. That was a big draw. The price point was another one, because I recognized there was this group that wasn't being served that had a smaller budget that still was looking for great design. And then I also appreciated that at Minted, they're limited editions, which I think is really nice, right? It's not something mass produced out of a catalog. They're usually editions of, I think, 350, if I'm not mistaken. And again, I think that's just another nice touch, keeping it real and keeping it close to the actual artist. So those were initial things that drew me to Minted. Then I also applied to their trade program so I can work with Minted, which is also just when you're starting a business, from a business perspective, that is also really nice.
Got it. What does that mean to be in their trade program?
So it's a little bit like being a consultant. So if I recommend a piece to Minted by a Minted artist and the client chooses it, I pull things from all over, but I love a lot of pieces myself on Minted. So if I pick something and the client loves it too, and we decide to do it, then I'm getting a small percentage from that sale.
Got it. Nice.
Really, I'm an affiliate,
Yeah.
I should say.
Affiliate. Got it.
Also, and I can also just even take that a step back. I was on Minted originally, because that's where I was getting my Christmas cards, my holiday cards done. I love that the artists were designing these great holiday card designs. Has anybody here ever submitted anything to Minted? Because I'm really interested to know what that side is like. Because they're always sending out emails being like, these were the artist designs that were just chosen for this year. Has anyone ever applied or thought about applying or sending in a work? Okay. If
No, but
anyone
I might
does,
now.
yeah, if anyone does, I don't know what that process is like, but I would love to know. I would love to know if anyone does in the future.
Okay. Yeah, we will keep you
I will,
updated.
and I will also say one of the great things that I ended up doing with Minted from this past year was I got to do my first um, commercial project, and I ended up putting artwork into a newly opened local restaurant, and we did all Minted pieces, and we had to pick out, and we had a lot of art, and as you can imagine, it's a business, and we had a tighter budget, and it was a great way to support independent artists, get a lot of gorgeous work into a restaurant, and think about budget. And I think my clients really appreciate that I'm never throwing things at them to fall in love with that are just completely out of their budgets. That's really important to me.
So you're asking them, clearly how much you want to spend before you, show them a $20,000 piece of art.
Exactly. So I have kind of a list of questions that I go through in my initial consultation. And one of them is usually, do we have an idea on price point? A lot of clients do say to me, I just don't even know. I don't know what a great piece of art should even cost. And that is also completely fine. And in that case, I show them a range of price points of what is out there that I think will still work for their space. And then we kind of narrow it down. It is helpful as an art advisor, though, to have some idea. I always ask even like just a ballpark. But I do hear over and over again, I don't know what art should cost. And I'm like, no problem. I'm going to show you what's out there and we'll figure it out together.
Good to know. So we have one last question. I don't know if you're familiar with Faso, the website platform. This might be more of an artist backside platform. So this might not be actually aimed at what you know. So Joyce's thoughts were, what are your thoughts on that? But you can also say
I'm
you're
not
not
sure
familiar. And Joyce, I can tell you, I use Faso for my website and I love it. It's really easy.
Oh, that's great. I'm not even familiar with that one. I started I had very little knowledge of what to do to start a business. So starting a business was just such a learning process. My website platform is WordPress. Now I'm not showing individual like artist pictures to show like what's, available, what's sold. So mine is much more like almost like a blog because I'm just constantly putting up client projects that show befores and afters. And I've been really happy with WordPress. It's very user friendly once you get the hang of it.
Yeah, I did use WordPress and it is very friendly, but when you're updating inventory constantly, it is very, very cumbersome.
Yes.
And Faso makes that very easy.
Oh, that's
but
great.
that's another conversation for another time.
Yeah.
Joyce, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them, or anybody else in the community that uses Faso.
Yeah, Lauren, you might want to look at Faso. It's really, it's great. I've been very pleased.
How do you spell it?
Faso.
Faso. I will definitely look that up.
It's Fine Art Sale by Owner, I think is what it stands for.
I think it stands for, but it's more of it's actually an artist community.
Yes.
Sorry, I forgot one question. What is your theory on adding watermarks to protect the art that's shown on Instagram and websites? And I think this is going to be our last question because I want to respect everybody's time and it's 8 o'clock.
I know. Okay. I don't see a lot of watermarks on Instagram. Let me start saying that there. I completely understand not wanting to have your images just copy and paste it, right? Because sometimes the internet is a bit of the Wild West. I would recommend almost trying to just make the resolution smaller without losing quality so that it just can't be reproduced in a mass-produced way. Because I'm just not seeing a lot of watermarks. Also, I'll tell you, I'm copying and pasting or copying and saving so that I can pass these images along to clients in emails. And I don't want to see a big watermark across it when I'm proposing it digitally. So that's just my kind of 2 cents on it. But of course, everyone has to make the best decision for them. And I absolutely understand. I've heard a lot of horror stories about people who are trying to take credit for other artists' work, that could be a whole other conversation on another day. So yeah,
that is very, very helpful, because as an artist, we wouldn't necessarily have thought about your side of it passing on to a client, and that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, it is 8:01. Thank you, Lauren. This was so informative, and it's always fascinating to see the other side of the business, what different options there are for getting our work out there. So we appreciate your time and all of sharing your knowledge with us.
Thank you so much for having me. This was really so much fun. Yeah, I hope to get to keep in touch with a lot of you. Come find me on Instagram, get your faces in front of me again. I would love that. And hopefully we can work together.
Yes.
Thank you for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you, everybody. Stay tuned for next month's meeting with Jordan Wine. Details coming out soon.
Her work is so great. I'm really excited for her to be here to speak to you guys next month. That would be
I know, me too. I might have a small piece of hers in my house, so I'm very excited to talk to her in person.
Awesome.
Well, Lauren, you're invited to come and sit in at that next month also.
Please do.
I would love
I can
that.
send you a link. Yeah.
I was able to install 5 of her glitter pieces, and getting to see them close up, they are amazing. Oh my gosh. So I think I'm going to take you up on that. I would love to.
Yes, no, please do. One question, does the glitter fall off at all, or is it really stuck on there?
It is really stuck on there. I was also working so carefully because I did not want glitter anywhere, but no, it is really stuck on there. It was good.
It's amazing. Okay. Yes. No, please. We'll talk.
Okay. Perfect.
Excellent. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Have a good Wednesday night.
Thanks, Jen. Did a great job. Appreciate it. Thanks, everybody, for coming.
It was fun. Okay.
Yeah, it was.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.